Welcome back to Munchausen's Proxy. And yes, I am still your voice for contrary opinions concerning HBO's hit series adaptation of the Naughty Dog game, The Last of Us. Last week rebounded from the coma-inducing Episode 3, and the preview for Episode 5 at the end of last week's show seemed to indicate this week would keep that trend. But did it? Let's get into this week's spoiler review for The Last of Us Episode 5, shall we? We start off this week by being dropped into the middle of the violent post-liberation celebration in Kansas City. The people taking out their grievances on Fedra and the collaborators, while looking through the city for those who escaped the downfall of Fedra's reign. Henry is still hiding from the rebel patrols with Sam, and he tells Sam they are 2 blocks from safety. Head Bitch enters the lockup where they have the prisoners, speechifying to the collaborators. She wants them to tell her where Henry is in exchange for being given a trial and punishment rather than being killed. When nobody answers, she tells her lieutenant to kill them all, and somebody yells out that he is with Edelstein, surprising her that this Edelstein was a collaborator. While it might sound a little stereotypical, I'm going to assume that Edelstein is the doctor from last week. When they tell her everything they know, she tells her people to go out and find Henry and Edelstein, but the lieutenant objects. She then tells him that of course they're not going to give the collaborators a trial. Just burn the bodies since it is faster. The lieutenant and his men go and shoot the prisoners. Henry and Sam enter a building and he signs that they are going up. They meet the doctor from last episode and he hides them in the attic. Henry worries that they will find them, but the doc tells him that he got the location from a Fedra guard, who is dead. The only food they have is what Henry and Sam brought with them because the doc barely made it out before the fall. They are also low on ammo, but Doc tells him that they were not going to shoot their way out of this anyway. They have 11 days worth of food to figure out what the hell they are going to do next. Then the doc asks if Sam is scared, and Henry says yeah, he saw a lot, but there was no helping it. Doc tells him that he is scared because Henry is scared. Henry goes over to reassure him. Then he gives him some chalk to draw on the walls. 10 days later, they are still holed up in the attic. Henry looks outside and sees a lot of activity still, and Sam tells him he is hungry. Henry tells him that they will open the last can of tomatoes later. He looks out the other side of the attic, but Sam tells him he is hungry again. Henry tells Sam later, but Sam asks when the doc will be back. Henry tells him soon, but it has already been a day, and Sam asks if he is coming back. Unconvincingly, Henry tells him yeah, so he goes back to his art. Food forgotten. The next day, Henry wakes Sam to tell him Doc isn't coming back, and they have no more food. They have to leave. Henry tells him that he has been studying the patrol patterns, and he thinks they can make it on foot. Sam asks him if they killed the doc, and Henry tells him probably. He hugs Sam before telling him to close his eyes. He paints a mask on his brother and shows him his reflection, which makes him smile. They leave the attic, and just as they are getting ready to make a run for it, Henry hears the shootout Joel and Ellie had with the ambush party. He looks out and sees Joel kill 2 of them. He ducks back down and tells Sam there's a new plan. That night, they sneak into the building Joel and Ellie are in. They step on the first line of glass and stop. He gives Sam a gun and they continue sneaking through the glass. Ellie wakes Joel up and Henry tells him he wants to help them. If they lower their guns, since they did not hurt anyone, everything is cool, right? Joel says right in his Joelish tone and Henry tenses up at the tone. Ellie starts to panic and tells him that is just how Joel sounds. He has an asshole voice. She tells Joel to tell him it's okay, and he does in the same tone, causing Ellie to despairingly say, "Dude." Henry shouts and tells Sam he is going to trust them. Sam looks at him and asks if he is sure. Henry gestures for him to back up. He lets Joel sit up slowly, and Joel asks who they are. Henry introduces them and tells Joel he is the most wanted man in Kansas City, although right now they might want Joel as a close second. They sit together and eat, introducing themselves again, Ellie forcing Joel to say his name. He does, and then he says that now that they have eaten and didn't kill each other, let's call it a win and move on. Henry tells him that he is betting that they came up here to get a view of the city. When the sun comes up, he will show them a way out. Come sunrise, Henry looks out on the city saying, "Welcome to Killer City." Joel asks about there being no Fedra, and Henry tells him not as of 10 days ago. When Joel says he heard Kansas City Fedra were monsters, Henry agrees. However, when you rape and torture and kill people for 20 years, when the people finally rise up, they will do unto their oppressors what their oppressors did to them. Joel asks Henry if he was Fedra, and Henry tells him no. Worse, he is a collaborator. Joel tells him he doesn't work with rats, and Henry tells him he does today. He lives here, and he saw Joel the other day. He knows where to go, but not how to get there without dying. Not just him and Sam. Joel tells him he looks capable enough, but Henry tells him he is wrong. He has never killed anyone. Pointing an unloaded gun at Joel was the closest he has ever come to being violent. The discussion is broken up by Sam and Ellie laughing over what looks like her joke book. Henry smiles and tells Joel he hasn't heard that in a long time. Joel sighs and asks how they are getting out. Henry draws up a map of the downtown area, showing how it is bordered by the highways. What is in the middle is controlled by Head Bitch and her people. He tells them that if they get close to the highways, they will be caught by the people Head Bitch has posted there as sentries. He suggests there is a way around, asking Sam how they are getting out, and Sam writes tunnels on his erase pad. Henry lays out a plan that involves using tunnels built by developers that will get them from a bank in the downtown area to a residential neighborhood, bringing them out near a pedestrian bridge over the river, and then they will be free. Joel asks if it is so easy, why does he need them? Henry looks serious and asks if they noticed anything strange about the city, aside from what they saw on their way in. Ellie immediately says, "Infected?" Henry tells them that they have infected, but Fedra drove them underground 15 years ago and never let them back in. He says that what everybody thinks is that the tunnels are full of infected, but he was told by his Fedra guy that they are clean. The information, however, is 3 years old. He says that there might be a couple, and that is what they need Joel for. They will go down, and if they run into any infected, they come back up. Joel scornfully asks if that is his great plan. Henry replies, "No, that is my dicey as plan." He thinks that is their only plan. When Sam asks what they are saying, Henry smiles and signs back while speaking it that they are saying they are going to help us escape. Sam nods and smiles. Joel looks like he wants to punch him, but has no other way out. They cut to the four of them going into a bank lobby. Joel tells them that they need to get out of sight, and Henry leads them through a door and down to what I was sure was going to wind up being the building Head Bitch put off limits because of the basement of doom. Joel tells Ellie to get her gun out. They get to the tunnel and Henry yells, "You see? It's empty! The plan is good!" Joel shushes him, telling him they've been down there 2 seconds and haven't seen anything yet, so he knows nothing. Henry turns to Ellie and tells her that her dad is kind of a pessimist. They both simultaneously tell Henry that Joel is not her dad. Joel tells him to point his light forward and be ready to run. They proceed down the tunnel. Sometime later, They head for a door and find the walls around it are painted with what look like children's coloring. Sam steps forward with a smile to open the door and Joel stops him, shaking his head. Joel cautiously opens the door and they come out in a basement that looks like it was a bunker from the early days of the outbreak. As the adults look around, Ellie and Sam find comics and bond over them. Joel tells them to quiet down, and Ellie wants to rest up there since there's actually something to do there. Henry suggests it might be a good idea and they can wait out the light and be safe from shadows when they go back up. Joel wordlessly accedes. The kids play soccer and the adults talk. Joel tells Henry he is sorry he called him a rat, that he could understand if he did it to take care of his brother. Henry tells him he was not completely truthful about not killing anyone. He tells Joel Sam got sick with leukemia, and if he wanted the medicine, then he had to bring Fedra something big. He gave them the resistance movement leader, Head Bitch's brother. Then he asks Joel if he is the bad guy. When Joel doesn't answer, he says he's not sure what he is waiting for. The answer is easy. He is the bad guy, because he did a bad guy thing. Joel looks away and Henry says he can tell he gets it. He may not be Ellie's dad, but he was someone's dad. He can tell. Joel decides it's time to head out. Head Bitch is then shown moping in a rundown room that was probably her family's when her lieutenant comes in. She says, "Well?" He shakes his head and she asks about the men who killed her guys, meaning Joel and Ellie, and he shakes his head again. She tells him they are not doing so good. She asks him if he had been back to the room he grew up in. He smiles and tells her no, it's a couple 100 miles away. She tells him about growing up with her brother, tears leaking from her eyes. She says her brother would have been horrified by the things she has done, that he would have wanted her to forgive. Then she rants about not understanding that mindset and the point of it. Her lieutenant tells her that her brother was a great man, but he did not change anything. She did, and they are with her. Back to the four escapees who have come out of the night-darkened parking lot of a Bank of America. They walk along and Sam wants to know why they can't use the lights. Henry signs back that they don't want to attract attention. When Sam signs back that there are no people there, Henry starts bragging on himself about his plan working, and anyone with a brain already knows everything is going to go to hell in a handcart. Henry tells them they just have to go around the corner, cross the bridge, and they are free. Ellie asks him where he plans to go next, and he says he doesn't know yet. Ellie tells him that they are going to Wyoming, and Joel shoots her an annoyed look. She tells him in an exasperated voice that it is a huge state. It can fit 2 more people. Henry says maybe they should just call it a success and go their separate ways. Ellie replies that Joel will change his mind. She imitates Joel saying, "Never ever," and then she says she will keep asking 1,000,000 more times until he says yes. This is about when someone starts shooting at them from one of the houses, pinning them down behind a car. Henry and Sam try to run back, but they have to retreat to the car again when they get shot at. Joel tells them to stay put, that they can't get hit if they don't move. He's going to go around and try to get in the house. Ellie tries to get him to not go, but he asks her to trust him. He runs for the house and gets in. He sneaks upstairs only to find an old man with a rifle. He tells the old man to slide the rifle to him and wait there for an hour, and they will just let him live. The old man looks at him, looking like he is going to try shooting Joel, and Joel begs him not to. Then he does, and they cut to the other 3 hearing the gunshot for reasons I cannot fathom, because then they cut back to Joel. This is a fairly violent and bloody show, and yet they waste 2 cuts to make sure you don't see him whacking the old man. Anyway, he examines the gun and then hears the head bitch on the radio telling her what is obviously now her sentry that she's almost there. Joel yells to the others to run. They stupidly stand there looking around like idiots, and finally Sam taps Henry on the arm and points to the incoming convoy of trucks. The lead truck has a bulldozer plow on the front and just rams through the cars blocking the road. The others get the clue-by-four to the head and finally decide to run. Joel tries to take out the driver of the lead truck with a rifle. He hits her after several shots just as the truck was about to catch up to the fleeing others, jerking the truck into one of the houses. For some reason, the truck explodes just as the other trucks drive up, knocking a running Ellie to the ground. Henry grabs her and they take cover. The rebels head for the house and Head Bitch yells for Henry to step out and save them time. He yells that he will step out if she lets the kids go. She replies in a regretful voice that she can't do that. The girl is with the guy who killed her man and Sam is with him. He tells her she just does not understand, and she tells him that she knows why he did it. But did he ever stop to think that maybe he was just supposed to die? Henry says he's just a kid, and she says kids die all the time. Did he think the world revolved around him? That he was worth everything? This is what happens when you with fate. Henry turns to Ellie and tells her to take Sam and run. When she shakes her head, he tells her to do it. Henry then comes out with his hands up and she's about to shoot him when the burning truck starts moving, sinking into the ground to the sound of an infected who suddenly bursts from the hole. The rebels start shooting them and Henry ducks behind the car. He takes the kids and heads for the house, Joel covering them with the rifle. Ellie gets knocked down and separated from Henry and Sam. She begins crawling toward the house, getting up and running as infected ravage the rebels. In what is the single dumbest move in this episode up to that point, she jumps into a car to escape the slaughter. Head Bitch and her lieutenant are starting to retreat when they hear a deep growling coming from the hole in the ground. A huge fungus monster comes out roaring. Nothing they do seems to stop it. The lieutenant tells her to run, not look back. She does, and he goes to attack the monster and gets ripped in half for his trouble. An infected jumps into Ellie's car and she scrambles out, looking around in horror at the infected. She sees Henry and Sam are being attacked by infected under the car they were hiding under. She takes her knife and kills them with her knife. The three of them then extricate themselves from the frenzy and run. Joel sees this and heads out to join them. Head Bitch intercepts them, waiting for a conveniently long time so that a lurking infected can jump on her and thereby put her out of our misery. And then the three idiots stand there, watching her get mauled. Joel comes and has to tell them to run, and my only thought is none of them are smart enough to survive the zombie apocalypse. As they run, the zombie horde begins streaming away with the monster, presumably toward the wide-open Kansas City. The idiots hole up in a motel. The kids are looking at comic books, and Henry asks Joel if he thinks they will be okay. Joel tells him sure, it's easier when you are a kid. He offers to let Henry join them on the way to Wyoming. Henry tells them that he will tell the kids in the morning. He tells Sam and Ellie that they need to get some sleep. He gives a look to Ellie as if to say she was right, and she smiles as he closes the door. When she is sure it is closed, she gets Sam back up and they go back to reading the comic. Sam writes on his erase pad, asking her if she is ever scared. She writes back, "Do I not look scared?" He writes back, "Never." She writes back that she is scared all the time. Then she writes, "Scorpions." When he gives her a strange look, she writes that she is scared of ending up alone. Then she asks him what about him. He writes back asking if they turn you into a monster, are you still human inside? Then he shows her his bitten ankle. She shows him her scar, writing to him that her blood is medicine. She cuts her hand and wipes her blood on his wound. He asks her to stay awake with him, and she writes back she promises. Then they hug. And yes, what follows was as predictable as a fungus zombie following Ellie into the car, or Head Bitch being mauled because she was savoring the moment before shooting Henry. In the morning, Ellie wakes up in the chair next to Sam's bed and sees him sitting on the end of the bed looking out the window. She taps him on the shoulder and he attacks, predictably turned into a fungus zombie. They tumble to the floor and Joel pulls his gun out, but so does Henry, shooting at Joel's feet when he tries to help Ellie. Henry then shoots Sam in the head. Joel tries to go see if Ellie's alright, but Henry points his gun at him. He tries to get Henry to give him the gun, but Henry shoots himself in the head. Joel buries them and Ellie comes out with their packs. Ellie puts Sam's erase pad on the grave and asks which way is west. She walks off and the erase pad is shown to say, "I'm sorry." She tells Joel, "Let's go." He grabs his stuff and they walk away. There's so much to say about this episode, and it is a mixed bag. I think I will start with a little thing, but one which irritated me the entire show. Deaf people watch the hands when people are signing to them, not their faces. This drove me crazy because nearly every scene had Sam looking at Henry's face, whether he was speaking aloud what he was signing or not. Especially dumb was the fact that they were signing to each other in the pitch black night and had no problem communicating. I know it is silly, but I did say it was minor. What else? Well, let's start with the positives. For one, the pacing improved a fair amount. While this was by no means a great episode that won me over to the camp of the Last of Us fluffers that are singing this show's praises, I was not actively fighting off sleep watching it this week. We also got what we were promised this show was about in the promotional campaign, namely, a crap ton of zombies. For 2 episodes, we have been practically zombie-free except for a very short shot of one tripping one of Bill's traps in episode 3. The climax scene in this episode was everything this show was promised to be and more, for about 5 or 10 minutes. Then we went back to dreadfully boring for the last few scenes. Anything else? Well, Ellie was even less annoying this week, and that makes me wonder whether it is the way the writers wrote her for the first 3 episodes, or if the directors for those episodes are complete incompetents. I still could not care less if she lives or dies. But at least I am not now actively hoping she gets mauled to death by a fungus zombie or trampled by a stray stampede of buffalo. She had decent chemistry with Sam and had better characterization than at any point in the entire show. So yeah, there's that. The negatives are themselves a mixed bag of same old, and new irritations and idiocies to mention. For the same stuff that has not worked since the beginning of this series, we start off with pacing. It was better in this show, but it was better in a choppy manner. It was not a smooth progression of the pace, building to the climax. The beginning was boring and slow. Then we pick up once we bring our 4 escapees together before slowing down again, as they make their getaway. Then we pick up again when they get shot at. Then we slow down again once they escape. Then we get another little jump near the very end with the death of the brothers before crawling off to the black screen. It is certainly better than the other episodes, but it is still less than captivating to watch. especially since they are still mixing in so many idiocies into the faster pacing. Faster pacing means they can cram even more stupid decisions in per minute, and the climax scene exemplified that. Starting with them hunkering down behind the car when they get shot at by old dude with the rifle. How did they not figure he was there on orders from head bitch? It should not have taken Joel hearing her on the radio to figure it out. And when he yells for the other three morons to run, what the hell are they doing standing around with their thumbs up their asses? How is it they needed the deaf kid to clue them in to the convoy of heavy trucks full of troops heading their way? And when they run, why are they running in a straight line in front of the truck? Then we have the truck blowing up after crashing into the house. Why did it blow up? Joel did not hit the gas line. He hit the driver. And after it blows up, why is it only then, after sitting there for a few minutes, does it sink into the ground to release the fungus horde? Oh, and what the hell was up with Fungus Hulk? I am sure that question would have been answered had I played the game. The only thing I could think of as I was watching it was a bodybuilder or a football player before being infected. Maybe steroids plus huge dude equals Fungus Hulk? Also, I continue to have issues with Head Bitch in this episode. Her leadership skills are abysmal. Beyond the whole, let's put everything else on hold while I get revenge thing. The scene that really capped it for me in this was when she was in her childhood bedroom having a mental breakdown and needing validation from her lieutenant. I am not buying her as the leader of a rebel movement that actually succeeded. She would have been scragged by her own troops a long time ago with her planning and emotional incompetence. And her eventual end just shows what I mean. Twice in this episode, she could have gotten her revenge, but she just has to sit there and do the villain gloating thing. The first time she winds up being interrupted by the zombie breakout, and the second time she is interrupted by her being mauled to death by the zombie that kills her, while Henry and the kids stand there and watch. Speaking of Henry, how did this idiot manage not to get caught the very first day of the new regime in Kansas City? Let's go through the many imbecilities of Henry, shall we? First, waiting as long as he did for the doctor to come back. If the doc had not returned after an agreed upon time, he should have split. No more than 12 hours. I would not have given the doc more than 6. Henry waited a day and a half. If the doc were more of a weasel than he was, he would have sold Henry out and all 3 of them would be dead. Then we have him sneaking up on someone he watched kill 3 of Head Bitch's people in a gunfight. It only worked because, predictably, the glass on the floor trick failed to warn Joel and Ellie. Then we have him basing a plan to escape on 3-year-old information about tunnels being clear of infected and fungus. Then we have him practically yodeling his greatness when they get to the tunnels, only shutting up when Joel tells him to. He is again told to quiet down when he starts the back padding up again when they get back to the surface. Then we have him trying to run from the safety of the car they were hiding behind when old dude with the rifle was shooting at them, nearly getting himself and Sam killed. Then we have him standing up from behind another car he is using for cover before Ellie can get away with Sam, only being saved by the zombie breakout. Then he decides to hide under a car with Sam from the zombies, winding up with Sam getting bitten. Then he is caught again by Head Bitch and stands there while a zombie mauls her instead of running, It should not have taken Joel to tell them to run. Then we have him pull a gun on Joel when Zombie Sam is attacking Ellie. And we will get to Ellie in a minute. By the time this idiot blew his own brains all over the walls, I was so tired of him. Is Henry really this stupid in the game? Somehow I doubt it. Then there's Ellie's stupidity in seeing Sam's bite and not telling Joel. Instead, she assumes that just because she is immune, all she has to do is smear some blood of hers on Sam and he will be cured. She is lucky she woke up at all. Sam could have killed or infected the lot of them. The fact that Joel did not require a full body strip search of everyone except Ellie after they were in the middle of a fungus zombie breakout is also a little hard to swallow. Anyone who has survived and even thrived in the post-apocalyptic world they inhabit would not have assumed everyone came through it unscathed, especially after Tess's fate. This week's episode did nothing to increase my estimation of this show, nor what I would rate it. It is still a well-produced show that looks good. And that is the problem for me. It mostly looks good. The chemistry issues are still there, the likability issues are still there, the writing issues are still there, and the pacing issues are still there. Oh, and we can add editing to that as well. I keep forgetting those hacks with all the other issues I have with this show. They need to take the meth away from the editors before they hand them the filming on this show. And why nobody in the executive suites tells them to go back and fix it is beyond me. This is a mediocre show hiding behind HBO's well-earned reputation for producing quality shows that are stunning and enthralling. Part of the problem is no doubt the fact that Neil Druckmann has his dirty little fingers in the pie, but that can't be the only reason this show is so boring and flawed. 4 more episodes left, and I doubt they will change my mind on this show. Nothing I saw in the preview for next week's episode makes me think anything is likely to change then, and they are running out of time. I think I'm going to leave it there. If you like what I do here, please hit the like button and share the video. Please subscribe to the channel and make sure the bell icon is clicked on so you're notified when new videos are uploaded. And leave a comment or constructive criticism to help out with the algorithm. It is all much appreciated. Until next time. Tschüss.